Hi, I'm Dan Miller, Senior Editor with Progressive Farmer Magazine. Today, with the help of our pond expert, Terry Goldsby of Aqua Services, we're going to walk you through the essentials of building a great pond. Whether it be the design of the pond or stocking fish, Terry's going to walk us through the do's and the don'ts for building a pond, whether it's an existing pond or a new pond that supports fish.
That's right, Dan. You know, so many people in the country have ponds or build ponds for recreational purposes. There are simple things to do, yet highly crucial things to do before you ever stock the first fish. We have a lot to cover, so let's get going.
So Terry, what's the best sized pond for bass?
You know, Dan, there's no real set size, but anything under about an acre is difficult to manage, so we like to see them in at least the 2 to 3 acre range.
I don't see any cattails around this pond.
No, there are none here, and some types of vegetation can get really weedy. Cattail is one of those, so we kind of stay away from that.
Hey Terry, I hear the slope at the pond's edge is important. Can you explain why?
I can. What you want is a fairly steep slope like we have here. This is probably a 3-to-1 slope, and as it carries into the water past the water's edge, it continues that slope down to bottom elevation. By getting deep in a hurry, it prevents weed growth in the future. Dan, when you're considering building a pond or a lake, one of the most important things is your water source and the flow in and out of your pond. Here we've utilized an indirect water source, which is this existing drainage ditch. And by building a dam on this ditch, we're allowing water to go in and out through these pipes, which can control the water on the other side in the pond.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important to control your water because you can control weeds and algae that come into the pond, you can control wild fish, and you can control the nutrients that stay in your pond. Here's a new use for an old water bottle. We're using it as a rain gauge. It's helpful after a rain event to know how much that rain makes your pond rise.
So Terry, I understand evaporation can cause big problems for your pond.
It really can, Dan. You can lose about 12 gallons per minute per acre each day, and that can amount to about 15,000 gallons off of every acre.
So what do you do for water?
Well, we like to have an alternative water source like a well. Once you've completed the physical construction of your pond, then it's time to think about creating a healthy habitat for your fish.
Terry, we're standing out here with rocks and we're standing on top of gravel. What's this all for?
Dan, before we filled the pond, we made this square of rocks, filled it with pea gravel. It's about a 10 by 10 square. This makes an excellent spawning bed for the reproduction of bluegill and shellcracker.
Terry, you got to tell me what this is.
I will. I know it's weird looking, but this is a fish attractor. Sometimes you need to provide habitat and structure for your fish. You can use artificial structure like rocks, old trees, that sort of thing, or these things that you can buy commercially. They really make great habitat for your fish.
Hey Terry, what are these trees doing way out here?
Dan, as I was saying, cypress trees will grow in water. Those are some we planted last week, and we put rocks around them for additional fish attraction. Dan, are you ready to take the next step and stock some fish?
Terry, anything that gets me closer to fishing, let's do it. What's next?
Let's go ahead and put these bass in.
All right.
So now, Dan, we've stocked our top predator fish. And for Dr. Strickland's lake, the top predator is the largemouth bass. 6 months ago, we came over and we put in small bluegill and small shellcracker, and those form the basis of our food chain. Now the largemouth bass should really grow and give us good fishing by the end of the summer.
Well, Terry, I guess we're all done today. Thanks a lot for your help.
Well, no, not quite. There's one more important thing. Let me show you. Well, Dan, here we have a high-quality fish food, and in order to grow great fish, you have to have an ongoing feeding system. We use these nice devices, these automatic fish feeders that are programmable to throw feed out several times a day, also throw out different quantities. That helps feed the forage fish, the bluegill, which in turn helps the bass.
Why don't you just mount them on the dock?
Well, if you put them on your dock, then you have varmints that come onto the dock like raccoons and possums, maybe geese. By putting them out here, you keep that from happening.
Fishing is one of my favorite pastimes. I bet it's one of yours too. If you follow Terry's tips, you're going to end up with a great bass pond.